Thank you. Thank you very much for that for that update, sorry. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Today, I'm gonna talk about financial forecasting from a perspective from cash inflow. So it's basically what I like to talk to you today is a continuous topic about one of the things that we discussed last week. So first of all, let me remind you why this is very relevant, why we are talking about cash flow forecasting. As you all know, all of you are business women and men, cash is king in the sense that is the key financial tool that we have for a couple of things. One is to really embrace opportunities, and the other is to cope with emergencies and crises like the ones that we are living today. So this is essential, especially when we are on a survival mode. So just to stay in business, it's very important that we develop skills to better manage cash flow. So keeping on this thought, last week we talked about previously, as in the series shows in TV. So if we make a recap of what we talked about last week, basically, usually cash flow forecasting are done on a monthly basis or on a yearly basis after a certain period of time. However, in this period, it's highly recommended that you do it weekly, as long as you need it, because you really need to nail on what's the cash balance that you have. So if we recap a little bit, cash balance is basically obtained when you consider your carryover, whatever money you have left from the previous period, plus cash in, that is getting into your business, minus cash outflow. So we talk about that at the beginning, the first round, the first time that you do this is probably you are gonna get a negative balance because you are receiving less income and you are continuing to have similar expenses. So we talk about this idea of having an interactive process that you need to do several rounds of adjustments on all the things that represent cash in and all the things that represent cash outflow. We talk about some examples on the expenses. We talk about that applying to some of the programs like the ones Jim just described really affect your cash outflow because they are designed to help you reducing expenses. And they are also designed to compensate somehow the income that you are not going to get. However, in this interactive process, you need to identify what improvements you need to do. And those improvements are really your action plan to embrace this unusual and unprecedented situation. So with this recap, I just wanted to give you some background of what we were discussing last week. So now what we want to do is to focus on some of the topics that we discussed previous week. If you recall, we talked about a 7-step process to do your cash flow forecast for the following weeks and the following months. The first 3 steps are related to managing cash inflow. If you recall, we were talking about that you need to make a list of the products and services that you can still continue marketing and what should be the pricing associated to those services or products. We also talk about that you need to project the number of items that you are going to sell on a weekly basis. And just by doing the math, I mean, multiplying the units that you are going to sell plus the price, by the price, you will basically get your sales. So let's take a further look, a zoom to this topic. It seems quite obvious and quite easy to say, well, okay, I need to make a list of products and services. Sure, everybody knows what is selling, but it's not as simple as that. And let's talk about why. When we're talking about product mix, what we mean? We mean, what are the products and services that we usually, or that we can have the capability to sell? Usually, when you want to forecast, you take a look to history. You take a look to statistics. What are the products that I have sold in the past? Was there any seasonality there? I mean, are there products or services that are usually more demanded on hot season, on the spring and summer, or on fall and winter? So history tells us many things about the behavior of demand. That's still true. Just to give you an idea, there are many complex tools to do forecasting based on statistics. For example, let me give you an example. There are some regression tools, modeling tools, that helps you identify which are the demand drivers in the particular industry that you are at, and to study how they correlate them. Let me give you an example. A few months ago, we were involved on a very big exercise about forecasting what would be the water demand in a particularly town in Mexico. It was Cancun. It's a very touristic place, as you all know. So you will think, okay, obviously people is going to continue demanding water, obviously, but what are the demand drivers? One very obvious is population. Yeah, the bigger the population, the bigger the demand of water. But there's also industry. So depending on the industry, there are industries that are more water demanding than others. There was also the issue about how many people live in a single household. 2, 3, 4. I mean, do they work all day? Or where do they spend time? So as we dig more and more on the demand drivers, we found out that studying history was really useful. So that's still the case today. However, one important distinction is that now is more relevant for the midterm and the long term, where things get back to normal or to a new normal. But talking about this particular crisis timing, what you need to think about? Well, you need to ask yourself the question, what products are currently relevant today for the following weeks? That's even more important than history. So I encourage you to think about things such as, what would be the reduction of products and services? Let me put you an example here. I heard last week that a very big airline worldwide is seriously rethinking about eliminating business class and first class sections in their airplanes. You all know the industry is growing through a huge crisis. Yes, they think that behavior will change. They think that corporations are realizing that probably their executives do not need to travel as much as they did. They are thinking that this type of conferences and working from home and using technology is working. So that corporations will really make a cost reduction on traveling. And if they are thinking on that, and if they are going to become more cost conscious, they might not demand as much services as they used to demand for business class services. So yes, they are thinking on eliminating those sections completely from many of their fleet. So that's one example of how companies are thinking about rethinking the product and their service list. So something that seems quite obvious at the beginning turns out that it's not that obvious anymore. Another question that you may ask is whether you need to shift your services or your production to something else. We all have heard in the news that many of the factories, alcohol factories and manufacturing sites are shifting towards producing sanitizers, alcohol-based health, because to help on this crisis. So similarly to war times, where many automotive manufacturers shift their production to serve the army, right now we are looking at some industries which are shifting their production to some other products. So when you are rethinking your product list, your service list, I encourage you to think, okay, what other services or products that are usually not offered by my business could potentially be offered during these times. So just some thoughts to help you thinking about the product mix that you have and that you are going to put in your cash flow forecast for the following weeks and months. Another thing that I like you to really think about is the demand drivers that really affect your value proposition. I remember one of my colleagues, Sia, on one of the presentations last week, he was talking about precisely this. And if we're talking about adjusting your value proposition, I like you to think on these thoughts. Keep in mind that simplicity is one of the demand drivers. Right now, people are already facing very complex situations. So if you can help them to keep things simple, that would be better. Let me put you a very simple example. In the retail industry, if you are buying clothes, there are some sites there that are offering, let's say you want to buy a blouse or something, a skirt. They are sending those products to your home in a very simple bag. It's a laminated bag where they put the item inside, they close it, and that's it. No more cartons, no more this overpacking that usually were sent. Why? Obviously they want to reduce cost, but they also want to provide you something simpler. Just go to what is really your need. So keep in mind, simplicity is driving demand in these days. Another driver demand is convenience. When you think about that, I'm sure that you will think immediately on e-commerce, online services. Amazon is a very, very big example about how they sell convenience. The convenience that you can buy almost everything online. Well, these days, it's very important to keep in mind that not only for the usual retail industry, but for others. Think about what banks are doing. I mean, they are encouraging you to do as much as possible online transactions. They are even considering waiving some of the fees. They are launching new apps so that you can do things in a more convenient and fast way. Think about the education industry. Universities are discussing what courses should be provided online on a permanent basis. What others are really required that you have an audience that gets together in a single room in the classroom. It is not the same for elementary school than for high school than for post-secondary school. So again, this is one example of how the industries are considering that convenience and distribution channels are changing and demand is going to change. Distribution channel, which I just mentioned. Obviously, you think, okay, yeah, instead of selling in a physical place, in a physical shop, many industries need to sell online, of course. But this might not be temporary. this might be permanent for many businesses. Let me give you an example. I was surfing on the web and found this site about Lush, this company that sells cosmetics and cruelty-free, animal cruelty-free products. And I was following their communications since the beginning of the pandemic till today. At the beginning, they say, well, we are going to continue operating. We're going to keep our employees. 2 weeks later, they say, unfortunately, we will need to lay off some people. 3 weeks later, they say, guess what? We are rethinking our business model. We want to manage our business as a small business. What they meant? What they meant is they want to become leaner, lighter. So they are definitely not going to open again all the shops, all the retail places that they used to run. They are not. They are be very selective on which shops are going to be opened and when. And they are going to continue selling online permanently because they want to keep things lean, flexible, and variable. So yes, this is going to be permanent. So their distribution channel is going to permanently be changed. So as you see, there are many things that impact the value proposition that you need to think about how to change. Let me give you another one, which is basically a personal thing that I have. I believe that one demand driver is this need of optimism, this sense of normal feeling that everyone is needing right now. I found last week a restaurant that is doing something interesting. They, of course, move to delivery and to takeout. So they reduce their menu. They are providing a simpler, remember simplicity, they are providing a simpler menu. But this restaurant used to have every day as a different program of incentives. One day they offer bottled wines half price. Another day they offer beer, 2 beers per one, and so on. So on Wednesday's night, they have live music, jazz. So they have jazz singer. That's what I want you to keep in mind, this example of the jazz singer. So of course, during this period of time, you will think that there is no need to provide live music anymore because no one is going to be dining inside the restaurant. Well, guess what? In the terrace, enjoying about the good weather that we've had in Vancouver during a few days, they invited the jazz singer on Wednesday at the same time, and he was playing there live. Why? Why, if nobody wants to or can get in the restaurant? Well, because they are assisting or at this need of optimism, of normal feeling. So there were people in front around the corner just lying there, keeping the safe distance and enjoying a beverage that they buy from the restaurant, even a glass of wine or a coffee, whatever was of their preference, and enjoying the live music event. So, of course, they are developing loyalty from their customers because everybody felt a little bit better, probably a little bit happier, and you relate that feeling with the place that is offering you that. So with this example, I just want you to remember that, yes, we need convenience, we need simplicity, we need to explore different distribution channels, but we are also demanding to feel a little bit better. A little bit more normal. So as we progress on this new normal, I encourage that you think about this and what you can deliver to help or to satisfy this need that everybody has. So I just want to wrap up telling you that if you think about that marketing strategies basically really have to do with products, what you sell, pricing, at what price you offer, promotion, how you are going to advertise your products, and distribution, all those things are changing right now. So it is not exaggerated to say that the business models are really changing and the marketing strategies are being fully reshaped. So think about all of this when you make your product list, when you think about your promotion, when you think about your product mix, and be as creative as you can when you do the forecast of your sales and the cash inflow forecast for the coming weeks. So without any further note, I just want to open and pass to the panel and to the questions and answers section, Eli. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you for sharing some of those ideas of how businesses can get creative. I know that we're an accounting business, so moving online wasn't a super big challenge, but I'm sure a lot of other businesses are really looking at other ways that they can start to get a lot more creative. And I quite liked your example of the jazz singer. I thought that was really good. Having the live music still, despite the fact that nobody can actually be in the restaurant. So that was an excellent example. I do see a few questions here for you, Monica, and Sergio. You're of course welcome to jump in whenever you like. But first, Jim, I do see a question here for you. I'll just read it out here. When an employee goes on CERB, $2,000 a month, and they generally make more than that working, is it better that the employer apply for the wage subsidy and keep the employee on the payroll? And does the employee need to agree to the change from the emergency response benefit to the wage subsidy?
Okay, let me answer this question by explaining what was the objective of the feds. They wanted to bring back the working force into the company. So they wanted to encourage employers to bring them back. And the way was to help them, one, giving paying more. The employees would pay if they work through if they receive these $500 a week subsidy. And second, to encourage them to give them some work, if not a lot, so they can at least get another 25% out of their pocket. So what happened here is that the CWS program pays up to $847 per month, per week. So that is about $347 more than what the CRB program is giving. And obviously, the employees would appreciate making additional money rather than earning less money. So definitely, you need to coordinate this with the employee. The employee must want to come back to work. And obviously, the financial incentive is going to be there because it's 347 times 4 weeks. That is going to be another close to $1,400 a month more that the person will be receiving. And that will also help you to develop, maintain the loyalty with the employee and not lose employees that have been working for you and you have worked hard in training them and keeping them close and then letting them go so easily. So yes, I hope that I answered that question.
Thank you, Jim. And also part two to this question, you mentioned about paying back the government either full or partially based on a case-by-case basis, presumably due to the conflict of the CERB and the CEWS. Could you please elaborate on this a little bit?
Yes. Again, the government didn't want to pay double pay to people. Because if they give the $500 a week for one side, and they are asking employers to rehire the employees back so they can earn more, the idea was not to have 500 plus 847 per week for each employee.
Right.
Now the government understands that there is difficult situation going on, and they say that they may ask the employee to repay that back. if they go back to the wage subsidy program through the employer. Because again, one is a program directed to the individuals, and the other one is assistance to the companies, the small businesses. So they can not force the businesses to go through this program. They cannot force the employees to join this program, but they have to encourage them to want to do it together again. So in answer to the question, yes, they have said that they may ask them to repay a portion or the total amount of money. And, but there won't be any interest or any charges of that nature. Now, let me add one more element here, that is, they are saying that many people may try to abuse the program. And in order to discourage that, they are announcing that they will have penalties of up to 25% of the money that they have paid out or the money that the person has received. So if somebody doesn't pay when it's required and is receiving both sides, there could be a chance that in the future there is a penalty of 25 plus having them to repay the full amount that they received. If they receive $2,000, they will have to repay the $2,000. The penalty would be $500 more, so that would be $2,500. So we have to be aware of this situation. Yeah.
Thank you, Jim. Monica, I see a few questions here for you. And of course, Sergio, if you'd like to jump in, you're more than welcome. Do you think that the adjustments made to the product mix during the crisis will stay permanent?
Well, thank you, Lai. That's a very good question. I think it really depends on a case-by-case basis. Some of them will be permanent. Some of them will not. Let me give you an example. If we're talking about the beer industry, the alcoholic industry, well, they changed their product mix because they are manufacturing alcohol-based sanitizers. Well, that will be temporary. That's our guess. I mean, they will get back to normal and to get back to the regular product mix. However, there are other cases where that changes will be permanent. I can think of an example. There's a very big retail shop in Mexico, which is called Palacio de Hierro. They have very nice upscale restaurants, and usually they didn't have delivery services. Of course, right now, they needed to implement it quickly, and that now they have delivery services and takeout. Those changes probably will be permanent because they will add an additional line, a new distribution channel. So the answer is, depends on the case. There would be permanent changes and there will be some temporary.
Good, thank you. And I see another one here. Can you provide an example of an adjustment that's related to delivering convenience?
Sure, thank you. Convenience, for example, there's a program on the restaurants, on the hospitality industry, for some restaurants and coffee shops, that you can go there and pay in advance for a service. For a meal, let's say, I will pay for a $30 meal to be enjoyed later. That means that right now you buy a card, it's a prepaid card, and the shop gets the money right now, so it's convenient for them because you are boosting and allowing them to have some income, but you get a convenient card, like a gift card that you can enjoy later. So this is one of the ways that you are delivering convenience, because for the person that is using or is going to use the meal, it's convenient to pay right now and enjoy later. So that might be an example of how businesses are delivering convenience.
Excellent. Great. I see Sergio has typed something in here, so I'll just go ahead and read it out. Another question. Monica, is it possible that companies who maybe before the crisis were not using some kind of cash flow specific software can can you recommend any to our audience if they're looking at maybe using some kind of cash flow software, anywhere to start?
Yeah, but very good question, Sergio. Well, I think it is not a universal answer to that. Depending really on the software infrastructure the specific case have. Last week we were talking about that even if they need to go to a very simple tool like Excel, I mean, if they don't have anything else available, it's worthy the effort to do it. Mm-hmm. They can later implement some automation, some macros, something on top of that. But to do the mechanics by hand, or not by hand, but manually at the beginning, is very important for them to learn the skill, because this is a skill that needs to be learned. Mm-hmm. So I'd rather recommend them to start doing it manually in Excel, or with any, for example, if they handle any of the ERPs. There are some ERPs that have some forecasting tools on the CRM section. So if they have that, they may use that. But the important thing is that they go through the mechanics so that they really learn how to do it. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I like, it's very pragmatic, but one of the things that I like of Excel at the beginning is that given that the forecast exercise needs to be done not only by finance, because the input is going to be provided by other areas of the business, such as marketing and sales, for example, mm-hmm. then it's easier for everybody to provide their input in a simple tool at the beginning, and later you can evolve or upgrade to a better tool.
Good.
If I could recommend that Sergio take over also that question, because it's pertinent to his field.
I also have 2 more questions from the audience here. So maybe Sergio, if you'd like to speak for a minute, then I can read out the questions afterwards.
Well, actually, I was the person that was asking Monica about this because there are some softwares, just to make a differentiation here, there are softwares that produce a cash flow statement. But I guess that Monica has brought the point important that this is a cash flow management. So different things. The cash flow management normally looks ahead and tries to help the company to drive 1, 2, 3 months ahead of today. And some of the softwares that produce a report, those reports are based on prior activities. So there are specific tools in the market. What I expect in the coming weeks or months is that we will start seeing that people need to connect with other businesses, and we will see emerging many services online, so you can receive your invoices, process it in your back office software, and probably produce another type of reports that in the past we were not considering as important. Remember that many companies used to have a regular cash flow, so they were never worried about running out of cash. But today that cash is king, things look different. So probably if any of our audience members would like to learn a little bit more about cash flow management systems, we are here to help.
Mm-hmm. Good. On that note, I do see a question from our audience members here. Seems a little bit more general, but nevertheless, do you recommend that businesses have a computerized accounting software? And what are the benefits to that?
Maybe Sergio, you should take over on that one. You're in mute.
Thank you, sorry. Of course, absolutely recommended that a business have a computerized accounting software. And more than that, this is the time to select a software that the company, the external accountant, and probably some other advisors can access at the same time. This is the time for using one tool for more than one users, or for internal and external users. It is known that some small companies use the service of a bookkeeper, and the bookkeeper decides which software is good or better for him or for her. But I understand that today, that because of this pandemic, it is a time to think about, we should also be using the same software so we can connect and do the work more expedite. But definitely every business should have their own software and keep their own information, because all the information that is in the accounting is now valid for those analyses that Monica was commenting on her presentation.
Thank you, Sergio. Sorry, go ahead, Monica.
Yeah, sorry, just want to emphasize that if you recall from the last week presentation, precisely we were making a big distinction. One thing is accounting, which really reflects history, transactions already done. And another thing is forecasting, which you are really dealing with the future and managing your assets, your financial assets. So yeah, thank you for reminding us that, Sergio, because we have been talking about tools and mechanisms so that you own your cash flow and you manage it in anticipation rather than just recording what has already happened. So thank you for that.
Good, excellent. So we are running a little bit short on time here, though. There is one more question that I think it would be worth sharing here. Jim, perhaps you can answer this one. One of the audience members asked, it's my understanding that a business who applies for the loan, presumably the Canada Emergency account, can also apply for the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. So two questions. One, if you're the owner of the company and the only employee with a T4, would you, the only employee, qualify for the wage subsidy?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Sorry. I don't know. You are on mute?
No, we can hear you.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Yes. So if you are the, let me read it because I can see the question well. If you are the owner of the company and the only employee T4, would you, the only employee, qualify for CSWS? Yes, you would. However, there is a question about arm's length that the feds have brought in, and is how much you're controlling the situation that you don't have the income. So they are saying that the baseline of reference will be the income that you pay to the other employees. So, and again, let me make the distinction between arm's length and non-arm's length. An arm's length person deals with people at distance. That means that they are not related, family related. So you will give them a neutral treatment. However, when I deal with somebody at non-arm's length, means that I don't have that distance, means that I will be closer to them. So they will be my family, and I will give them preferential treatment. So the government was trying to break that possibility by saying, if there are employees in the company that are related to the family, to the owner, they will not be receiving the salary based on their income, but on the average income that the other employees have earned. In the case of an employer, this hasn't been made very clear, and we will know at the moment that you go through the calculation process, what is going to be the application in your case.
Great. And looks like there was also part two to this question. So regarding the $10,000 on the, presumably again, the emergency business account that will be forgiven, what's the criteria for this? Will that $10,000 be taxed later as income?
Okay, so the loan has been announced is for $40,000, and you are having that loan for 3 years. However, if you paid before December 31st, you don't pay any interest on that loan. Not only that, but also you are forgiven $10,000 of the money that you have received. If you pay after December 31st, those $10,000 are not forgiven, and you pay an interest rate of 5% for 3 years.
Good.
But Jim, probably the sense of this question is that if you are forgiven to pay the 10,000, I mean, from the bank, you don't need to pay that for the bank. Will that be considered as an income, as a taxable income?
Oh, sorry, yes. You're right, I forgot that part. Yes, it's not treated as an income. So those $10,000, well, sorry, let me correct myself. This is a grant that is being received, and that will be into the bottom line of the company. Yes, will be part of the income of that year for the company.
And our audience member would also just like to know December 31st of which year, presumably you have to pay the loan back.
This year, so it's December 31st, 2020 that they have to repay it. And the rule is not necessarily $10,000 only. So if I borrow only $10,000, it's 25% that I will be exempted to repay. So they are talking about 25% of the total amount up to $10,000 because the maximum loan is $40,000.
Great. So unfortunately, we have gone a little bit over time today, so I apologize for that, but I think that we touched on some very good topics. Before we go, I'd just like to remind the audience that if you go to fernandezyoung.com/COVID-19kit, there you can see updates for all of our upcoming webinars. You can also get access to our latest updates on our blog, and there are also PDF tables available for download where you can get summaries of all the benefits available. And those tables are being updated once new information comes out. Also, next Friday, we have Dean Davison from Davison Law Group joining us as our panelist. That's going to be Friday, May 1st. So if you're interested in that, registration will be available on that same page very shortly, fernandezyoung.com/COVID-19kit. So with that out of the way, I think it's time to wrap it up for today. So thank you, Jim. Thank you, Monica. And thank you, Sergio, for giving us your time. And thank you to our audience members as well. And we hope to see you next time.
Nice to see you next time.
See you.
Bye-bye.